So, if you're watching on Twitch, thanks. It's twitch.tv/Basement Movie Room. If you're listening on the podcast, it's Basement Movie Room on any of your podcast apps. And we also are on YouTube at youtube.com/Basement Movie /@Basement Movie Room. And you can email us at Basement Movie Room Podcast with an S at gmail.com. So let's get right into it. Let's get the reviews going. We got some Diplomatico. And some Four Hands. I don't know which one I'm going to drink. We'll see.
A little fully loaded.
A little fully loaded on the dip front. Yeah. So, all right. So the first movie we watched tonight is Prospect, which is a 2018 film starring Pedro Pascal and nobody else pretty much. So you're going to know who they are. So just out of the gates, what did you think of Prospect?
I really enjoyed it for the fact that everything was like very grounded and you felt like you were just in that world right away.
Right. Yeah, this is what you're going to call hard sci-fi. Mm-hmm. This is hard sci-fi, meaning it's realistic sci-fi that it has some, elements that aren't exactly what we have today. But it's definitely hard sci-fi. So, I really like this movie. I'd seen it before. You had not. I hadn't seen it in a while. I didn't remember much about it, but I kind of remember a little bit about it. But it's essentially is space western. Mm-hmm. And not like Firefly space western. More like hardcore space western. Like, shoot people.
Kind of True Grit.
Yeah, True Grit type space western.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So the movie starts out kind of slow, to be honest. We're following a father and daughter team who are on a large spaceship, and they're looking to go down to a planet that they're orbiting to collect some kind of, I don't know what it is.
Space sperm.
Space sperm. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
So the two of them we kind of show their relationship. It's not a great relationship between father and daughter, but it's still a father and daughter relationship. Dad seems to be addicted to some kind of drug that he's doing. And so daughter and father don't seem to have a great relationship going in. But they go down to the planet, and the planet is like a prehistoric type planet. It looks like it's those ferns and large trees and things like that. So they get to the planet, and they go to their first harvest to harvest this underground organism of some kind. This is where you call it space sperm. They pour some acid or something down this thing, and they pull out this large sac that's connected to a umbilical cord to some extent. Much. And they cut it out, and the dad's like, "Hey, this is how you do it. This, if you can't be careful, the acid's going to release. It's going to burn the gem." And we'll have nothing. So he does it, and he collects this gem, it's like a almost amber looking gem surrounded in like a clear gem. It's weird nonetheless. So they harvest this, and they go to walk on the planet, and we come to find out that they're going to meet some mercenaries who have found a queen of whatever organism they're harvesting from to harvest a bunch of these organisms. However, they run into a couple of other gentlemen on this adventure. The dad runs into him. The daughter is kind of hidden in the woods when this happens. And Pedro Pascal plays one of the guys they run into. Well, these guys are not good guys. Pedro Pascal plays essentially a villain to some extent in this part of the movie. And they essentially end up killing the father, killing Pedro Pascal's partner, and shooting Pedro Pascal. And the daughter comes out and takes Pedro Pascal hostage, essentially. Mm-hmm. And he makes a deal with the daughter that, hey, your dad told me you guys are working through these mercenaries. You don't have a ship that's going to get off this planet. We need a ship that's going to get off the planet, so we need to work together to get to these mercenaries, because they're going to have a ship to get off this planet. So, begrudgingly, she decides to work with the man who killed her father, essentially. And the dialogue throughout this movie is very Western-esque.
Oh, yeah.
Dialogue.
Very much.
It's like very much a Western film, just set on a foreign planet with spacesuits, essentially. So, ultimately, they wind up back at the main ship that the daughter and dad came down on, and Pedro Pascal's been shot in the arm, and he gets her to help him and give him some medicine to take care of that bullet wound he's got in his arm and in his suit. Because this planet is not friendly. They have to wear suits on it. There's like dust.
Yeah, they call it dust. If it infiltrates your suit, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And basically you're going to die pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets, even though it's nice and sealed, somehow it gets in there.
Yeah, it gets through his suit.
He keeps feeling it. It's nice and
gooey.
oozy and gooey. Yeah.
So they get through his suit, but he makes a deal with her that they're going to go and harvest this queen and get off this planet. And she doesn't really have a choice. She has to agree with him and go with him through this. So she agrees, and she's kind of, they have to connect to the same air supply because his like filter is messed up. So they're connected through an umbilical cord, essentially. And they're wandering through the woods, and they come upon this native. I don't know. It's like another person who's been abandoned on this planet and lives on this planet. And they go to their camp. And this camp, and the main guy in this camp is played by the guy who played Bubbles in The Wire. I know you haven't seen The Wire, but this guy played Bubbles. So if you've seen The Wire, you know. And they're trying to get Pedro Pascal to trade the girl for these gems that they harvest. And there's like 12 of them that they're trying to give him. Well, she's not having it. She runs off and escapes, killing one of the members of this group. And Pedro Pascal somehow escapes. I don't know. I don't know if they have to let him go or because we don't really see that part. But he escapes and meets back up with her, and she's like, "Hey, were you really going to sell me to them?" And he's like, "No, I wasn't going to do that." So we have the internet's daddy playing daddy again.
Here we go again.
In this,
he's pretty good at talking his way out of certain circumstances.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty.
He was doing that. He was trying to do that with her and her dad.
He was
at the beginning, and I guess with this tribe, because he kind of knew their ways.
Yeah,
he's been there.
He knew who they were.
Yeah, he's been there multiple times supposedly. So you kind of assume that he got away because he had a certain way with these people.
Yeah, we never see those people again in the movie, so we don't know what happened to them, if he killed them or if he just left.
Yeah, and they show up at this tent. I guess that's where they kind of made camp. Yeah. Pedro's camp. So.
Yeah, she finds a tent ultimately and meets back up with Pedro. She doesn't know it's him, but she ends up meeting back up with him. And there's these tents that, like you said, they're kind of like safe zones in there because they can take their mask off and stuff. And he says, "Oh, my arm is done. You're gonna have to cut it off." Yeah. So we get a scene of her cutting his arm off to save his life, essentially. And we get that scene, and then she's kind of come to the point where she's trusting him because she doesn't have anybody else to rely on, and she figures if he let me cut his arm off, well, he's probably okay, right?
Right.
To an extent. So she cuts his arm off, and they move on their journey towards these mercenaries. She's more trusting of him. She doesn't have a gun on him at all times at this point. They approach the mercenaries, and they go out and find the mercenaries and say, "Hey, we're here." He's pretending to be her father because they were expecting a father-daughter combo with these mercenaries. And they're like, "We're going to harvest the queen, and we'll all get rich, but you're going to let us leave on your vessel." And they're like, "Well, we can't do that. We don't have the space." So they start negotiating with stuff they can get rid of off their vessel to get back to the orbiting spaceship that can save them. So the mercenaries ultimately agree to let them harvest the queen. They start doing it, and Pedro Pascal is terrible at it. He's only got a left arm. It's not his dominant arm anymore.
He's very shaky.
And early in the movie, they'd said, like, there's this acid sac that burns through the gems if you don't do it right. Well, he doesn't do it right a couple times. The daughter ultimately tries another time. It burns up the gem as well. And this one mercenary who's watching him is, like, done with him. It's about to kill him. And Pedro Pascal and the girl, who's C is her name? And his name is, like, Ewan or something like that. Yeah. So they take down the one guy, and the other other mercenaries come over and they're like, oh, he was stupid, he fell, but they, of course, have to fight them off to take them out. They take out one of them and run from the main mercenary, who's a female mercenary who plays music through their headsets to make them not, very loudly to make them not realize what's going on.
It's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
It confuses them because they're, right off the bat, they're like, oh, gosh.
Yeah, it freaks them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't hear anything.
It's so loud.
So they finally come to the point where they turn off the music. They end up killing the mercenaries, all the mercenaries. The mercenaries also have a prisoner there, and he escapes somewhere during the fight that they're having and kills the additional mercenary and kind of just like peace treaty with them and just walks off.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the girl gets on the ship and she decides to go back and save Pedro Pascal and get him on the ship, and they leave, and that's the end of the movie.
It's basically the reverse of Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
In this movie. If you've been watching Last of Us, yeah. So, I'm sure this helped Pedro get The Mandalorian.
I think there's definitely a reason.
Last of Us.
Yeah, definitely. Because this was just before both of them.
Yeah.
Obviously,
absolutely.
Before The Mandalorian, and a little ways before Last of Us. But Pedro Pascal is excellent in the movie. He's fantastic. He does a really good job playing a anti-hero, essentially. He plays I had said, he plays a bad guy with a heart of gold, essentially. Because he's not into killing kids. He doesn't want to kill the kids. He understands where his position is, so he's just really trying to escape the planet, but he doesn't want to kill a kid.
I think he does a really good job of being kind of not a scumbag, but somebody that is just driven by money.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And survival.
Yeah, and survival, and just that's all he's about.
Yeah.
And then he kind of transforms a little bit, but gets away from it and comes back to it.
His internet daddy role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can we talk about the costumes?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, the everybody's space costumes, I guess you could call them. Space suits.
They're more like
not costumes, but Earth suits or whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, and you can't tell who's a villain and who's not.
Yeah. Although some of the suits look pretty evil.
Some of the suits look evil, some don't, but you can't tell.
Yeah.
And they're done so well in this movie. I was very impressed with how the suits looked.
Yeah. No, the suits are great.
I mean,
that
was one of the first things I was like, oh wow, this looks lived in.
Yeah, the whole design of the suits, they're dirty. It's kind of old. It's kind of old technology, really.
Yeah.
In a future society, it's very, very cool kind of suits and things like that. Kind of the antithesis of Sunshine.
Very
they have these gold suits and all that.
Very shiny and
yeah.
But these are very lived in, and they have practical you have to breathe through.
Yeah,
certain
there's a filter, and they have to connect
to
each other.
Filter,
Yeah, so it's
and the medicines and all the stuff that they have to use to repair the suits and themselves.
Practical. Yeah, it's all very practical, very believable, and the weapons are very weird in this movie as well. They're electromagnetic type. They reference railgun at some point, and I think that's the big machine gun the one guy has. But I think they're mostly electromagnetic weapons that work off of not gunpowder, but more energy weapons. But they are projectiles because you see them loading clips in the guns and things like that. So they're projectiles. Yeah, very cool detail. Music-wise, I hadn't really noticed the music in this movie. Other than the loud music that's licensed type music.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to it, but enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. Yeah, it's an enjoyable movie.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you're kind of used to Pascal in this role.
His daddy role.
In this daddy role. So, a lot of people might not enjoy it as much as
Yeah, it's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah,
it's a Western set on a foreign planet in spacesuits.
Yeah.
Essentially. So if you like Westerns, kind of slow burn type Westerns, you might like this.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would check it out.
This was released by Gunpowder and Sky. There's a number of production companies, but Vinegar Syndrome originally sold it. So it's right up our alley on things we want to watch, which later we'll review something that's not so much great from Vinegar Syndrome releases.
Yeah.
But yeah, Prospect
for that.
is pretty good. Pretty good movie overall. Acting is fantastic. The young actress in it.
So do we do a vinegar?
Nah, no.
This has to be
a standard scale.
Yeah.
This is a standard scale. But what would you rate this?
Oh man, I would give this probably a 3.75.
3.75 is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good rating. I'm at a 4.
Yeah.
So I'm right above you. Because I think this is very, very enjoyable. Enjoyable is the wrong word for this. Because it's slow, it's plotting, but if you look at it as a Western set in space, I think it works better. If you go into this as like a sci-fi type film, I don't think it's as good.
No.
But I think as a Western, and I prepared you for this. I said it's a Western set on a foreign planet. It's definitely, like, even the dialogue throughout the movie is like very like John Wayne movie.
100% Western.
It's very like True Grit, type dialogue.
Yeah, we even brought that up during the movie. It's like True Grit.
Pedro's even got the Texas accent that he wants to do. He's got
a little bit more pronounced in this.
Very much so.
Yeah,
very much so. So yeah, that is Prospect. Check it out. I think you might enjoy it if you enjoy movies like this, westerns and space westerns and things like that. So you definitely want to check that out.